everyone, and welcome back to Days Out. And today we're off to the West Midlands for an open day at Tyseley.
Tyseley lays 6 miles from Birmingham and is where the Chiltern Main Line from Marylebone to Snow Hill meets the North Warwickshire Line from Stratford upon Avon. Tyseley Station opened in 1906 as part of a programme to improve commuter services to Leamington Spa. The North Warwickshire Line arrived in 1908 and the station has 2 island platforms. The goods yard was extended in 1913 with private sidings being added in the 20s. This served a large manufacturing district with a new goods office installed in 1923 and electric lighting in 1930. For a while, platforms 1 and 2 were taken out of use, but reinstated during the 1990s as part of a re-signalling programme between Birmingham and Warwick. Tyseley North Junction was also improved to allow 60-mile-per-hour running to Solihull. Services from Tyseley run across the West Midlands, with northbound trains heading to Kidderminster, Stourbridge and Worcester. Southbound trains serve Dorridge via Solihull and the North Warwickshire Line, whilst those on the Chiltern Main Line are non-stop. The North Warwickshire Line sees 3 trains every hour, with 1 through working to Stratford. During the summer, Vintage Trains runs the Shakespeare Express on Sundays. The depot at Tyseley opened in 1908, replacing Baldersley. It had 2 roundhouses, each with a 65-foot turntable and 28 roads, plus a repair shop with a traverser. Each shed housed passenger locomotives, whilst the western one dealt with freight. Coded 84E, Tyseley had 100 engines on its books during the 50s, but by then the passenger types had moved to Wolverhampton Stafford Road. In 1957, a new depot opened to cater for DMUs, whilst freight traffic ceased in 1963 and the repair shop demolished in 1964. Transferred to the London Midland region and recoded 2A, its last allocation were panniers for working to Hales Owen Basin. The depot closed in 1967. In 1967, BR imposed a steam ban on preserved locomotives hauling tours. So a museum was founded at Tyseley in the former coaling stage with a short running line, and soon a fleet of locomotives grew up, including some on loan from the National Collection. The museum's first acquisition was Castle No. 7029 Clun Castle, purchased by Patrick Whitehouse in 1966. She was one of the later post-war variety, with a double chimney and 4-row superheater. After hauling the last steam working from Paddington, Clun Castle was used on rail tours until 1967. During this time, she ran to Carlisle, along the East Coast Main Line, and hauled the last train on the GWR's line to Birkenhead. The museum's second purchase was Jubilee No. 5593 Kolhapur in 1968. Named after an Indian state, Kolhapur was one of the last active Jubilees, working from Leeds Holbeck. However, in 2024, she was sold to the West Coast Railway Company at Carnforth. Another LMS locomotive on display in Birmingham is Duchess No. 46235 City of Birmingham at Think Tank. Originally streamlined, she was the first Duchess to be fitted with a double chimney, after trials with No. 6234 Duchess of Abercorn. Defrocked in 1946, she ran as a semi until 1952. Painted in this Brunswick green livery, City of Birmingham spent the rest of her life at Crewe North, until withdrawal in 1964. Restored at Crewe Works, she was presented to the Birmingham Museum of Science and Industry, with her new home built around the locomotive. She was relocated to the new Think Tank Museum in 1997. The base at Tyseley was soon renamed the Birmingham Railway Museum and became very influential in the return to steam on BR. A large proportion of the fleet has run on the main line, and since 1999, regular Shakespeare Expresses have run to Stratford. This culminated in the creation of Vintage Trains, which became its own TOC in 2018. Tyseley has also built up a reputation for its restoration work, some of which we'll see later. Started in 1971, the site now carries out in-house and contract work. At the time of filming, a recent overhaul had been completed on Battle of Britain number 34053 Sir Keith Park. Sir Keith Park was the RAF's Air Chief Marshal during that campaign. Emerging from Brighton in 1947, the locomotive was rebuilt in 1958 and withdrawn in 1965. She is now owned by Southern Locomotive Limited. During the open day, there was a display of rolling stock from the Sutton collection. Based on the Cleethorpes Coast Light Railway, the collection has preserved artefacts from the Sutton Miniature Railway. One of the locomotives on display was Sutton Flyer, built by Cannon of Dudley in 1950. This locomotive was inspired by the GWR's rail cars, which appeared in the 1930s. It was built by G&S Light Engineering of Stourbridge in 1946. Based at Sutton Coalfield, the Sutton Miniature Railway opened in 1907 to 10¼ inch gauge. Rebuilt to 15-inch gauge in 1908, the railway was unique in that it never closed throughout World War II. However, closure did come in 1962. Count Louis was constructed by Bassett Loke in 1923 and was visiting from the Ravenglass and Eskdale. Also on display was a collection of models, including a King, 4700 and a Class 08. This model is of a Northeastern C7, designed by Sir Vincent Raven in 1911. 50 were built at Darlington and by the North British Locomotive Company for express duties. Replaced by Gresley Pacifics, the class was withdrawn from 1943 to 48. The main centrepiece at Tyseley is the Ransom and Rapier 70-foot turntable, which at the time of filming was under repair. Number 9600 is one of the 8750 batch of panniers fitted with an enlarged cab. Built in 1945, she was acquired from the NCB's Merthyr Vale Colliery when withdrawn in 1973. However, she had to wait until 1997 before returning to traffic. One of the few tank engines to be mainline certified, she returned to the national network in 1999, being used on short distance rail tours. Number 4588 is a 4575 Small Prairie from 1927. Rescued from Barry by the Dart Valley in 1971, she was restored at Swindon Works, moving to Paynton in 1973, but is now based at Peak Rail. A local engine is Cadbury No. 1, supplied to the firm by Avonside in 1925. Withdrawn in 1963 and moved to Ashchurch, she hauled the Gloucestershire and Warwickshire's inaugural train in 1984. The 6-mile Cadbury system opened in 1884, connecting the factory at Bourneville with the LNWR and the Worcester and Birmingham Canal. Its steam fleet was made up of 040s from Peckett, Ditker, Avonside and Hunslet, the last arriving in 1955. Diesels appeared in 1958, being 4 diesel hydraulics from the North British Locomotive Company. The system closed in 1976, and one of the diesels, number 14, is also preserved at the Stapfold Barn near Tamworth. Princess Margaret was supplied to Sunlight Soap by Lever Brothers in 1947. Sold to the Erith Oil Works in 1968, she was withdrawn in 1985. Next is this Ruston Hornsby diesel shunter from 1950, owned by the Somerset and Dorset Locomotive Company. Number 800 is an unusual 040 petrol electric from 1920. Constructed by Bagley for the London Brick Company at Gildenborough in Cambridgeshire, she's been based at the Aston Tram Depot and Shugborough Hall in preservation. Pony was built by Hawthorne Leslie in 1912 for the Blythe Harbour Commission. Purchased by the Yorkshire Dales Railway in 1971, she came to Tyseley from Chatham in 2014. We move over now to Warwick Road, where a shuttle service was in operation. The station is also the starting point for some of Vintage Trains rail tours. At the Stratford end was Class 08 number 13029. Outshot from Derby in 1952, she was later renumbered 08021 and withdrawn in 1986. And at the Birmingham end was Class 47, number 47773, constructed by Brush in 1962 as number D1755. Working on the Eastern and Scottish regions, she was first numbered 47541 under the top scheme. Named Queen Mother in 1982, 47773 was withdrawn in 1991, but reinstated in 1993. Sold to EWS, she remained in traffic until 2007. In the shuttle was Eagle, a 1960 Pullman kitchen first. First preserved at Cardforth in 1978, the coach has spent time on the North Yorkshire Moors, Bluebell and Mid Hants. It came to Tyseley in 2011 and was restored as part of Channel 4's Great Rail Restorations in 2018. Later in the day, the 08 was replaced by 5700 number 7752, one of the North British batch from 1930. Sold to London Transport in 1959, becoming L94, she hauled LT's last steam working in 1971. Coming straight to Tyseley, number 7752 appeared at the Rail 150 celebrations at Shildon in 1975. Mainline registered, she often worked with numbers 7760 and 9600. On display at Warwick Road was Castle number 5080 Defiant, outshot from Swindon in 1939 as Ogmore Castle. She came to Tyseley in 1974 as spares for Clun Castle, but was restored in 1987. Running on the mainline and heritage circuit, Defiant was withdrawn in 1997. Displayed at Quainton Road, she's now awaiting her next overhaul. We conclude our visit to Tyseley with a look around the workshop. These frames belong to Hall number 4936 Kinlet Hall, constructed in 1929. Withdrawn in 1964, she went to Peak Rail in 1981, first steaming at Tyseley in 1996. Behind was Fred, one of the Hunslet austerities built by Robert Stevenson and Hawthorne in 1945. Working at Longmoor and for the NCB from 1946, Fred was acquired by the Keighley and Worth Valley in 1969. Her overhaul was completed in 2024. Alongside was New Build Grange number 6880, Beaton Grange. In 1901, Churchwood made plans for a mixed traffic locomotive with 5-foot 8-inch wheels. The result was the 4300s, but following his takeover, Collett took up Churchwood's idea, producing a smaller version of the Halls using wheels from withdrawn 4300s. The result was the Grange class, of which 80 were built from 1936 to 39. Initially, they ran with 3,500 gallon tenders, but these were later swapped for larger 4,000 gallon examples. In reality, though, the Granges never really replaced the 4300s, as they had the same route availability as the Halls. They did, however, find a niche on southern interregional workings from Banbury and Oxford. The last four went in December 1965. This is a replica of an LNWR Bloomer number 760. The Bloomers were designed by James McConnell in 1851 for expresses on the LNWR's southern section. Number 7760 is another North British 5700 from 1930. Like number 7752, she was sold to London Transport, becoming L90, previously carried by number 7711. She came to Tyseley in 1971. Alongside was Castle number 5043, Earl of Mount Edgecombe, one of the batch renamed after earls having previously been named Barbary Castle. Acquired in 1973 as a source of spares for Clun Castle, she was restored between 1997 and 2008. Outside was Hall number 4965 Rudaston Hall from 1930. Withdrawn in 1963, she was rescued from Barry in 1970 and thought to be number 4983 Albert Hall. Returned to steam in 1998, Rudaston Hall became one of Tyseley's most travelled residents, visiting York, Paddington and Holyhead. She was also a regular on the Shakespeare Express. So that was a visit to Tyseley. Hope you've all enjoyed the video, and don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment and feel free to follow me on Instagram, link down below in the description. Take care everyone, and I'll see you all on the next day out. Bye.